All right, guys, welcome back to Zando Football. Definitely appreciate the support. This is the second video in the Cover 2 course. Whole idea of this course is to give you a way to play Cover 2 more effectively on Madden. I think it is a forgotten coverage, and I really do believe that we can make the coverage play so much better with some of the things I'll show you in this course. All right, so in the first video, I went over how I really think it's important for you to start using the outer shell of the coverage, like the two different safeties, the weak side or the field side safety, or the weak side corner and the field side corner. All right. In this video, we're going to touch on playing the corner on the outside and why playing the corner on the outside, using that player, more so the field corner in this video, and I'll get into the boundary corner in a different video, how it can make your Cover 2 play so much better. All right, so first and foremost, we'll have this at the beginning of every single Cover 2 video. When you play a Cover 2 scheme, I really think it's important to put strip ball and tackling to aggressive. And I'll go over why in other videos. I will touch upon that in different aspects. All right, I don't want to do that every single video. All right, but let's take a look at something here with Cover 2 against a spread set. And I want to go over why you got to get away from always using the middle, the interior of the defense. All right. I'm pretty sure you guys who have been around for a long time know how using the safety in the corner in different defenses can make it play better. Right. But we're going to take a look at one of the perceived weaknesses of Cover 2. We're going to take a look at the honey hole shot. All right. So we're going to run 4 verts. All right. And if you don't know what the honey hole is, all right, it is the area behind the corner and in front of the safety along the sidelines. All right. And in Cover 2, there is a natural open area that the quarterback can theoretically fit a ball into behind the corners and in front of the safeties along the sidelines. That's the honey hole, right? And in my opinion, I really do think that it's not as weak as people may think it is on paper, as long as you play correctly in Cover 2. So we're going to take a look at this with the computer, the way they play it. So I'm the offense, and the second that the wide receiver breaks outside and past that corner, we rip it in there. All right, and the reason why it's so easy to complete a pass there is because we are putting a two-way go on the safety there. And we are horizontally stretching the safety, and then the corner obviously is playing underneath this route, and that's where we kind of just fit a ripped ball in that honey hole, all right? But we could take a look at why it's so easy to fit a ball like that against the computer. Let's take a look at the corner. All right, and the corner plays this, in my opinion, pretty bad. All right, where's the play button? There it is. So the corner in Cover 2 on the outside. All right, there's different schemes, different ways of doing it, but in my opinion, it's very important as the corner to always be thinking about your safety while in Cover 2. All right, you want to make your job for the safety as easy as possible, and the first thing you want to do is reroute this receiver on the outside to the inside. All right, and this is how the computer does it. Okay, they get hands on the receiver, but the problem is they allow an outside release. And right away we can see the issue with doing this as the outside corner, because the safety, all right, who's the deep half, with this guy coming up the field, and let's imagine he gets an outside release, okay, that is more ground for the safety to have to cover horizontally up the field, all right? As opposed to rerouting that receiver to the inside, all right? So this guy obviously wants this guy to take an outside release, which he does, and the corner wants to reroute this guy to the inside, all right? Now there is less stress on the safety on a horizontal plane up the field, okay? And that's where we help out our safety with that horizontal shot, not horizontal, but that honey hole shot up the field. But it gets worse, all right? It gets worse. I'm gonna go ahead and play it. So again, this is the computer. They reroute him to the outside, All right, so obviously we see the problem. Think about how much easier it would be for this safety if this receiver was inside here, right? We're funneling, as the underneath defenders, these vertical routes to our safety, right? Condensing them to the inside so we don't put our safety in a world of hurt, right? But the computer obviously reroutes that receiver to the outside. It's just too easy for the receiver to get an outside release against the computer, all right? And what's worse is after you reroute the receiver as the corner, all right, what you want to do is, all right, so you collide with the receiver, reroute him. You want to reroute him to the inside, so you won't be able to do that always. He gets an outside release. But after that, you want to get your eyes on the number 2, right? You're looking inside for the number 2. Obviously, the number 2 is here, all right? And what the number 2 does dictates how you play on the outside here, all right? If the number 2 climbs vertical, as we see here, he's going vertical, then what you want to do as the corner is you want to sync with this receiver. And again, as I stated earlier, it's because you are always thinking about your safety, all right? If you think about it, if we have this guy climbing on the safety, going vertical, all right, we want to make our job for the safety easier by sinking underneath this receiver so the quarterback cannot rip an easy throw, as you'll see here. Watch how the computer plays this. First of all, they messed up by rerouting them outside. Then as the number 2 is going vertical, the outside corner, or the AI, is not syncing with the receiver. So we're able to rip this ball. Here's the ball. On a rip throw to the honey hole, where it's an easy pitch and catch here, right? Now imagine if the corner on the outside, after rerouting, first of all, if he rerouted him inside, the receiver would be more along this plane. And then on top of that, if the corner sunk with him, right? So we're about here, right? You can't just rip a ball to that honey hole, right? If you do, we're able to make a play on the ball, underneath the receiver, all right? So the only way for the offense to make a throw to that honey hole shot is to put air on the ball, to put it over us if we are inside, right? If we are here, you can't rip it. You have to put more air on the ball. And that is beneficial for our safety because more air on the ball means that the safety can then make a play on the ball because the ball's in the air for a longer amount of time. All right. So even with the computer playing terribly, all right, the safety is still pretty close on making a play, but he's just not able to, right? So here I tried to show how I got 2 controllers, so it's hard to do this. All right, here's an example where I'm going to play the outside corner, and now I'm going to reroute him to the inside, right? And you'll see a world of difference. After we reroute him to the inside, now we are getting our eyes on the number 2. Is 2 climbing upfield? If so, we're going to sync with this receiver. All right, and you will see the difference in how that window for that honey hole shot is definitely more narrow as opposed to how the computer plays the corner on the outside, right? So look at the difference. Now the receiver is to the inside, not to the outside, right? He's not out here. So it's easier for our safety to apex the 1 and the 2 there, right? And then with 2 climbing, now we are syncing with the receiver, so you have to put air on the ball to fit it over us. You can't rip it to that inside shoulder because we are syncing with it. Okay? So that's what this video is about. I'll get into other things when it comes to cover 2 in other videos. I don't want this to be too long, all right? But again, this is the example of the computer playing and how terrible they play as the outer corner in cover 2, and how, again, you will always be able to play defense better as the user as opposed to the computer. So when you find where the computer is playing pretty bad in a particular coverage, okay, you can make that coverage play so much better by getting rid of that AI, and now you are playing the coverage the way it's supposed to be played, right? So here are some clips I will show you of me playing the outside corner, All right. And you will see how we disrupt the offense so badly. Well, I should say so effectively just by rerouting this outside receiver. So now he's playing with a reduced split. And I want you to watch how I reroute this guy to the inside. Okay, look how we reroute him hard to the inside. So now, I mean, that's poor spacing of the offense based upon what we just did, right? Can you imagine if we just gave him a free release up the field, right? But with that reroute jam to the inside, we've essentially put two players in one section of the field, which makes it easier for the defense to defend it, right? Now, after I reroute him to the inside, I'm looking inside for the number 2, and we see that the number 2 is now breaking to the outside, and we can play outside in on that route while sinking to the flat, right? And as the cover 2 corner, what cover 2 is all about, all right? We want to kind of, I hate to use the phrase give up, right? But if we have to make a choice between giving up an underneath throw or a deep throw on a corner, we want that underneath throw to be thrown, and then we rally and make a tackle in the flat. And I can't tell you how many times, if you guys start running cover 2, how your opponent will just not throw that underneath throw. It's because their eyes are stuck down the field, and they will get in situations to where they notice that you are the corner on the outside, and people are just not used to dealing with users on the outside, especially in cover 2, right? So here's where I rerouted him again. And again, my rule, I reroute him to the inside, and I'm climbing to the flat, sinking, and I notice that he's trying to burst to the corner. So I'm not going to attach to the route underneath. I'm going to try to narrow and close this window or this shot for this 7 route here. And my opponent wants to take, he could easily throw it to the flat, right? But he wants that big shot there. He throws it. We're not going to go for the interception. Our back is to the ball, right? We're playing the receiver. We're going to try to knock the ball away, and that's what we do. Why I also love cover 2 is when you get a speedster on the outside, all right? Think about how the computer would play cover 2. You just can't do it. You cannot do it because they're going to reroute this guy to the outside, which is terrible in cover 2. I don't know why the computer does this, all right? But the way we play cover 2, we're going to reroute this speed guy to the inside, right? Now our safety can cover that. We know you're a speedster, but now the safety is not stressed towards the sideline, opening up a lot of space to the inside as well, right? We help out our safety. We are always thinking about our safety as cover 2 corners underneath, all right? And after we reroute, now I'm sinking with the number 1 a bit. Maybe not good enough in this play, but I'm looking towards the interior of the defense, and I notice that we have someone crossing over, and that's where I'm trying to bait a throw for an interception. And you notice he went late to the flat, and he only got like 2 or 3 yards. All right, here's another example. So now he reduces the split of the receiver. I can almost guarantee you that I was rerouting him all game. So now he wants to play around with the splits. But guess what? We're still going to reroute this guy to the inside. A hard inside push, and we read a route coming from the other side. We play outside leverage of that. We let the ball take us to the flat and not the player, right? We don't attack the flat because someone gets into the flat. You can imagine if we did. I hate to sound repetitive in some of this stuff, but I think it really is kind of important, right? A lot of times you have a route going to the flat, not because they are trying to attack the flat, but they want you, the flat player or the flat control player, to aggressively attack that, so it opens up the window behind you to fit a route deeper down the field. But in cover 2, we don't want to allow that. We want to take away that outside throw deep, and now when we see the quarterback make this throw, he's opening up to the flat because he's throwing to the flat. Now we can attack down, make a tackle, and move on to the next play. All right, now this is where we get into starting to play games on the outside. So you don't have to sit there and play, 4 to 5 yards off and reroute the receiver to the inside. This is where you start getting into disguising on the outside. I watched the video on Patrick Surtain going over this. I wanted to attach that with this video, but I don't want the video to be too long. All right, but I've been playing cover 2 all game, but now I'm going to start playing bail. And I like to do it kind of late. All right, and now we're playing off. Now, the disadvantage to doing this, obviously, is now we cannot reroute him. So now we have to play a lot more safe. If this guy climbs up the field, then we just have to sink with it. Even if someone goes to the flat, all right, we cannot just abandon early and attack the flat, because now we are exposing our safety. Again, you're thinking about your safety as a corner. Now, obviously, one of the benefits of doing this is that at a certain depth, when the receiver bypasses us and we start to sink with that to protect our safety, if he decides to turn this into a deep in route, a deep curl pattern, a deep comeback pattern, okay, we are able to aggressively look to jump those routes because we have insurance with our safety over the top, right? So this is where we get into the bail game on the outside as the cloud flat corner. And here I'll give you an example where we let him go at a certain depth because we know that our safety should be able to handle that. And now I'm peeking inside for this pattern coming from the strong side. And this is where I almost got an interception. We were just a half of a second too late there. All right, I think I got a couple of more clips of me playing this bail technique on the outside. And now we get to see an instance. So here's an instance where I do it. When you give the disguise where the deep safety over the top is now in the middle of the field. Right? So now our deep half safety is further inside. So now you don't want to play underneath and reroute the receiver to the inside because your safety is going to have a hard time covering enough grass to stay over the top of this, right? So this is where I definitely include some bail technique on the outside as the cover 2 corner. And, you know, the rules still are the same. Now, if he climbs up field vertically very fast, all right, and he's getting on top of us, that's when we definitely want to sink, get eyes on our safety and see if he can cover over the top. If he can't, then we're just forced to stay over the top of this. All right. But if our safety is able to recover pretty well, then we can stop at a certain depth and look to play underneath any routes and then rally underneath to any throws or look for something coming from the front side. Right. So here's an example where the disguise of the coverage, it looks like we are in single high. And you get to see the benefit of some of these techniques. He takes an outside release. So I'm climbing upfield, and this is when we notice, okay, he's coming back down on the comeback route, right? So now I'm able to drive on this, knowing that I have safety help over the top. And again, I'm not going for an interception. I'm going for the swat, and we're able to stop a big play. So lastly, I'll get into split, something I call split flat or split cloud, where now we start doing things where we start playing in between the 1 and the 2. And there are various reasons as to why I do this. Again, so, you know, cover 2, I don't want you to think it's a bland coverage where you just stick with cover 2 and it's a boring coverage. You can have a lot of fun playing cover 2 with the cat and mouse game, the disguise aspect of it, and you can give a lot of problems for opponents because they just don't know how to deal with it, right? So I'm splitting in between the 1 and the 2, and I do it late because I don't want you to make an adjustment based upon me being inside, right? And then we just sink, forcing the offense to have to put air on the ball, as you see there, and our safety is able to attack the high point of the football. Here's an example where I get an interception. I split in between the 1 and the 2. All right, and we're reading the routes, and I'm still going to sink. So I give the illusion that I'm sitting underneath. He wants to fit this ball in the window. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Guys are always trying to attack deep, even when the windows are kind of narrow. And we close on this, and we make a play on the ball, and we get an interception, right? All from playing around on the outside, playing that split technique as the cloud flat corner. Another benefit to doing this is now we can fit the run too, right? So when we get inside of the number 1, he can't seal us off from any run plays coming our way. All right, and you will see an example of this here. where now that outside receiver can't seal us off and we're able to attack in between the two players and help out in the run. All right. So that is it. I'll leave it at that. That is part 2 in the cover 2 course. Again, this course is to give you a different perspective on cover 2. I don't want people to think that it's just a bland coverage. You can make the coverage play so much better in Madden by using the outer 4 players. And obviously in this course, I'm going to get into exotic things, exotic blitzes we can do from it. It's just a mindset of cover 2 that I think a lot of people lack.